Cathyann Harris.
Present.
Randall J. LeBlanc.
Present.
Daniel P. Romard.
Present.
Chairman Vidal.
Present.
4 present, 1 absent, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone present, everyone here in the audience for coming early today at a special time at 5:30 just to have a lot more conversation going. And we can get started. But before that, can we please acknowledge anyone in the room who is taping the recording or audio recording?
Chris Gamble will be recording this meeting.
Mr. Gamble will be recording. Can you make it all that, Mr. Clerk? Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc makes a motion to accept the minutes from November 5th. Motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. We do have, main reason why we're having this meeting at 5:30 is because we're going to talk about 2 items. Well, collectively we're going to be discussing Christopher Road, the water main, sewer, and the repaving. That'll be one item, and then the second one will be Lexington Street Park. But so let's go over the Christopher Road part first. Can someone take that off the table?
Ask them to take that.
Motion to take off the table. Christopher Road, acting on those 3 items collectively.
Yes.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. First, before we get started, thank you, Councillor Romard. I want to see if I can hear from an committee member, Councillor from Ward 3, Councillor Darcy. We can just, you ready to speak to us at this point?
Sure. Maybe the clerk could read in the memo from the Director of Engineering for the city.
Okay, 2, Joseph Bazard, Assistant Clerk, Clerk of the Public Works Committee. From Steve Kazaza, City Engineer. Carbon copy to Robert Waddick, City Clerk. Date November 19th, 2018. Regarding Christopher Road Water Main Project. Joe, the water main work and water services have been completed at the end of Christopher Road. Ongoing construction activity is focusing on finishing up the smaller sewer extension. A trench patch will be applied for the winter months. My intention is to replace the 3 water services on the front portion of the road this year prior to winter shutdown. I'm preparing a funding request to complete the water main replacement on the front section of the road, including resurfacing curb to curb. I expect to resume construction as soon as possible in the spring. Sincerely, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councillor Darcy.
Thank you. So it's unfortunate that the engineer was not able to come this evening. I don't know why he didn't come. But I can give you my recap from what I know. This project goes many years back, and so I'm excited that it's finally being attended to. The first, for whatever reason, the engineer divided this project up into different phases. The first phase was to loop Melody Lane and Christopher Road, the water service, loop the water service because they were both dead ends. And they did that via a water sewer easement at the end of Melody that goes to the middle of Christopher Road. That work was completed, I think, a year and a half ago, and that water is now flowing through the loop. The second phase of the project was to connect a new water line to the end of Christopher Road, connect new sewer service where there had been none to the 3 homes at the end of Christopher. And the water work has been completed, the sewer work is ongoing, as Mr. Kazaza states in the email that he sent. And then to replace the laterals for the 3 houses in the front of Christopher Road, and those will go from the water main to the house, actually from the gate, what they call the gate, which is where the valve is, from the gate to the house. And then, as he states in the last paragraph, once that is completed, phase 3 is to prepare funding requests to complete the water main replacement on the front section of the road, including resurfacing, which is how this all began in the beginning, that the Christopher Road residents came in with a petition to resurface their private way. What's nice is that he states that phase 3 will be done in the springtime. So that's what I know. I've been up there. I've witnessed the work, phase 1, phase 2, and as he states, phase 2 will be completed by the end of the year, and then phase 3 will be next year.
Okay.
I certainly, for whatever reason, why they broke it up into 3 phases, I don't know. I would have done it in 1 phase myself, but I'm not the mayor. I don't appropriate the money. I don't, I didn't make the funding request, so it is what it is. I'm happy that it's finally getting done, because when it's finished, then they will be able to resurface their roadway. I mean, it will be resurfaced for them.
Right.
Here. So, that's what I know.
Okay, great. I want to allow members from the committee to ask Councillor Darcy. Do you have a question for Councillor Darcy?
I do.
Councillor
I know, and prior to that, I'd like to make a motion to hear from an off-committee member.
Sure. The motion, will say aye.
Aye.
Will say no.
Question, Mr. Sergi, what is your address?
29 Christopher.
29 Christopher Road. All right, thank you. No further questions for Mr. Sergi. Councilor Darcy, quick question for you. This letter that I'm reading it, trying to interpret it, do you interpret this letter that at the end of this project, 29 Christopher Road will be getting a new water main?
That's what it implies from what I'm reading,
Okay,
because he speaks about the front part of Christopher Road.
so,
He's preparing, so phase 3, there's no funding request yet for what's described in the 3rd paragraph. So he's preparing that, funding request to the mayor. Then the mayor will send an appropriation to the council for our vote on that money, on the transfer. It'll probably be a transfer from some other fund for phase 3. And it will probably be advertised as an open bid on the city's website.
so that would, if this was accepted and the city council voted on it and the mayor appropriated the funds, that would get rid of the contingency and the testing and any of that, and that would just go to water main replacement and paving.
Yep, it looks like, from what I'm reading here, is that he's going right to taking the $50,000 that was in phase 2 and applying that directly to the laterals for the 3 homes on Christopher, which is number 29, 43, and 55, I believe.
29, 43, and what was the third number? Sorry.
55.
55, sorry.
Excellent.
And then the water main would be phase 3, which is next year, and then after that, the road would be resurfaced.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councilor.
And the life, I mean, that subdivision was built, I think, 1950 maybe, is that right? Let me check here. But it's 50 years old. So the shelf life of the utilities it's near its end, so it makes sense to replace it.
Excellent.
And as you know, the phase 2 is providing sewer work to 3 houses that just had a septic system. So that's important to get rid of that.
Get them off of Title V. Excellent. Thank you very much, Councilor. Yeah, no further questions.
Thank you. Anyone from the committee has any questions? Yes, Councillor Romard.
So, thank you.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to
Yes.
the councillor. And councillor, thanks for coming in on this. The last councillor did a good job of sort of clearing some of this up. But I do just have a couple questions if we can go through. And if you can answer them, great. And if not, that's okay. But just going through Mr. Casaz's memo here. So the water main work and water services have been completed at the end of Christopher Road. Do you know what that means exactly?
They put in a new line for the water, a new water line. So phase 1 connected the water lines, the existing water lines between Melody and Christopher. Phase 2, they ran from where the new water loop is to the end of Christopher Road to provide a new water line to improve the quality of the
And when we say, sorry, the end of Christopher Road, that's the
cul-de-sac.
the cul-de-sac piece?
Correct.
Okay. So, then through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Sergi. And let me just preface, one of the reasons why we're asking all this, I think you probably know this, Council, but just for the actual record, was we as a committee have gotten emails asking us to look into this because there's some confusion. And I think the confusion is, if I understand right, please keep me honest, both of you, is that the city had committed to replacing that entire line on Christopher Road. And there are emails showing that. Now, as of more recently, I think it was either last year or this year, the plan was not to do all of Christopher Road, just to, I think, the first 5 houses, and not replace or not fix the last 3.
Vice versa.
I'm sorry?
Vice versa.
Say that again, so would it?
It's the reverse of what you
So we would, yeah, we were gonna replace the water line for 5, but not replace the water line for 3 in the cul-de-sac.
There was, in emails last year, there was reference to testing. That the
Testing.
contingency would be put in, at the very least, the laterals would be replaced, and the line would be tested, and if it needed to be replaced, you would then go and replace the line. And from
Okay,
this memo,
so that's where I'm
wait,
a
wait,
little confused.
I'm not done yet, but from this memo, it states in an English sentence that they are replacing that line.
Okay, so when it says the water main work and the water services have been completed at the end of Christopher Road, that tells me that the new line has been put in for the entire street.
No, no. From where the loop meets Christopher Road to the cul-de-sac, from the loop to Trapella Road has not been replaced. And that's
Okay.
the issue, and that was the issue.
Oh, I'm
all
sorry,
along.
your piece is at the front of the,
Right.
oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
You're looking at it
Okay,
backwards,
okay,
right.
I did, okay.
Yeah.
Now I got it, okay. So, okay, so they're only going, so the front piece from the cul-de-sac to the loop has been done,
The water line has been done.
Yes,
The sewer
yes.
line is ongoing.
correct. That's the phase 2 piece. And then I'm preparing funding to request the.
And wait, in phase 2, he's gonna replace the laterals before the end of the year on the 3 houses on Christopher, which was in the phase 2 project.
Okay,
So,
yes, that's the 3 water services on the front portion of the road.
correct.
That's those, so that, those are called laterals, that hooks the house up to
The gate.
the gate. Okay,
Point of clarification.
but this has already been done for the first 5. They've already been hooked up with laterals.
I don't think they did laterals.
Not laterals, they actually got a new water main put in.
Right.
So they didn't need, you know what I'm saying, they
Okay.
connected directly. For us, they're gonna be connecting water, these laterals to a 65-year-old water main.
Right.
For whatever reason, why wouldn't they just connect it to a new main?
Okay, so they're putting in new laterals, but you're saying that front section is still gonna have the old pipe?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, so I think that there is the question, and I don't know if you can answer that or not, but to that point, I don't see anything in here. Well, it says, I'm preparing a funding request to complete water main replacement on the front section of the road.
That's
So that's
from-
what we're talking about in the spring.
That's from the loop
Okay,
to Trapella
so
Road.
that funding request, don't we already have that in this request from August 2nd? And if you haven't seen this, I can show it to you. This came out August 2nd this year from the mayor saying, I respectfully request approval of loan bond funding for the sum of $1.4 million for Christopher Road base bid of $198 and for Christopher Road alternative. Is that
No,
the alternative?
to just cut it short, it didn't include the water main.
For $80,000, and then contingency, 3 houses on Christopher Road for $50,000. So, do we already have the funding for this work?
No, we don't.
So what's the 50,000 for?
The 50,000 were for the laterals.
Okay, so this 50 is for these laterals.
Each
which-
lateral costs between
is the
$6,000 and
phase
$10,000.
two.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so then if we look at this memo, at this point, I'm preparing a funding request to complete the water main replacement on the front section of the road, including resurfacing curb to curb. I expect to resume construction as soon as possible in the spring. Is that what you're asking for? You're asking for that water main replacement?
I'm asking for a commitment from the engineer rather than attaching some sort of arbitrary testing, that they're gonna test the water line after they've already repaired maybe 2/3 of the water line. I don't think it's been fair the way they've been playing this out. They've tested maybe one home in that corner, and now obviously automatically targeted 5 homes to get replaced and 3 not to. I mean, a new request for quote will take, I don't know how many more years it's gonna take for this. And plus, the mayor personally told me that she is not going to replace that water line unless she has definite evidence that it needs to be replaced. But if they had one test on the other side of the water main, why wouldn't that be sufficient for the whole street? I mean, is that a new protocol that they utilize now? They cherry pick certain areas of a home in order to do testing? I mean, in Montclair, I think they're gonna replace the entire road, right? They didn't cherry pick 3 or 4 homes and say, okay, this side of the road gets the water main, this side doesn't. See, that's my concern with that memo. It doesn't have anything definitive. Even like George, said, probably, maybe, we don't know. If we had the engineer to commit to it, it would make me feel a little more comfortable.
Okay. Mr. Chair, do you think it would make sense to ask the engineer to come in at another date, time on this, or do you think this is it and this is all we're gonna get from him?
I think our position right now, getting a memo from from Mr. Cazaza, is to, if we have any questions on the memo itself, we can reach out to the engineer and have him reply to us. We send him an email from the clerks, something like that, and we can definitely, or go through you, through the work, through Councillor, you can, let us know, or whatever you think will be easier, as long as we, if we have any clarification that we need from our end, perhaps the work councillor can help us out with that, and, if, for me, this is fairly forward. For me, this is pretty much covering, I don't wanna read through the lines or kind of dissect this last paragraph more than what we're trying to do here, because I don't think it will get us anywhere, but I think getting something in writing from the engineer saying that we're gonna get this thing going in the spring, things are gonna be looking better, I'm gonna take his word on that. Why wouldn't I? The engineers, he's the one who wrote this, and we'll have copies, and I'm sure we'll be able to share that with the constituents who are here to make sure that it does happen. But if we wanna ask questions to the engineer, we can probably ask them through the work councillor. Perhaps you can reach out to him and get back to us, when the time is right.
I can ask them to provide a schedule for next year.
Yeah,
And,
because I know that.
I'm fairly confident
Oh,
that he's including the water main, which, makes sense because the water line is,
It was phased out, and we don't know, and you already discussed that, we don't know how it was in a phased scenario, that's really not up to us.
I don't know why they did the phase scenario. But I know I got a commitment from them.
There's steps that need to be taken, as your funding needs to be moved from one place to another, go to the purchasing department, so it's not gonna we're not gonna get, this is the date, we're not probably gonna get that right away, but we got the commitment from them, so that, is making things,
Okay.
more comfortable from my end, but.
Yeah, okay, so.
But I mean, if you wanna provide any sort of questions we can definitely ask the work councillor, and he can send that over, to the engineer to get us answers.
And so, again, through you, to Mr. Sergi, so your concern, when we talked before, you mentioned about not replacing the front end, your section, the front end of the road. Again, it sounds to me like that's gonna happen.
He didn't mention anything about any contingency in this area or any testing. I'd like to have that in writing, that he's not gonna do that he's actually gonna have a firm commitment to replace it.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I mean, and just to give you, my fear is that the engineer in the past, last year, has promised to have a neighborhood meeting with repeated and multiple, emails from the residents asking to have a neighborhood meeting so we could hash out these questions that we're having right now, so we could firm up what is a lateral, okay? We don't even know what a lateral is. It would have been nice to know. It would have been nice for the other people in the cul-de-sac to also ask, okay, if we're getting a new sewer line, maybe I should get rid of my septic tank and connect my house to the sewer line. How do I do that? Do you have any suggestions, engineer?
You know, it would've been nice to have some sort of transparency and communication with the people that are impacted with that water line.
Yeah.
It did not happen. For whatever reason, he refused to respond to any emails or any phone calls. Nobody said nothing about a neighborhood meeting when this all started. And that's, again, that's my fear. He says one thing and then does another thing, so
Okay.
that's where I stand.
And I can understand that based on the history of this thing in the past. So, again, sort of taking it step by step, the front end of the work has all been done. The street's been dug up, the main's been replaced, and they've covered it up. I don't know if it certainly hasn't been paved. And it looks like now, is what he is saying, is that they are going to do the front section. Again, to me and the rest of us here, it doesn't make sense why it was phased, but it sounds like it was phased, that he's committing to do that front section, putting in the funding request, getting the road resurfaced curb to curb, and doing that water main replacement. So, to the chair's point, I think at this point, we have to go with that. Our questions have been cleared up, essentially the question was, why didn't you do it all at once, but they didn't. They're doing it in phases, so be it. So, to that point, I think we have to go with that. The council has agreed to request a timeline or a plan for that in the spring. I share your concerns.
Yeah.
I've heard the same thing of issues in my ward with good intentions, let's say, but things come about and things change. So I think from this standpoint, we as a committee kind of have done our due diligence in taking the issue off the table, investigating it, getting a resolution, and I think we have that. I would have liked to have seen something different, but to the chair's point, I think there's no reason why we wouldn't trust the city and Mr. Casaza to do what he said he was going to do. So we can certainly go on record for that within the minutes that we've got this, we've looked at it. The point is to phase it out, or the plan is to phase it out, do it in the spring, and we should be good. So, not anything I wanted to hear, probably not what you wanted to hear, but it does look like it's going to be done, so I'm okay with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Quick question, Mr. Clerk, you have copies of this memo, right?
Yep.
So you might share that with the neighbors so they have a copy of it as well? That's a written statement that came from our, and I have a copy too, and, we will.
Could you ask the engineer to have a neighborhood meeting with us? I mean, to explain what's gonna happen?
I could probably, I've already go through the work council, we can, we
Could
have the
George do that?
discussion.
George, will you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll reach out to him and
Yeah,
see
exactly.
if he'll meet with the
Because he
neighbors.
didn't have one last year, that's why I'm asking now, in
Yeah.
front of everybody.
Yep, the last one we had was 2013.
Right, that was way.
And so the houses were built in 1958 and 1960.
Yeah.
And the utilities are 60 years old.
Yeah, that
So-
sounds right.
I mean, they're at end of life, so.
Yeah, they're definitely, you're living in borrowed time, if you ask me.
And I'll be, next year is the year to complete it and get the
Oh,
road
glad to hear that.
resurfaced. And then, I mean, they're one of the probably 15 neighborhoods that have this problem of dead-end loops. I have another one on Chase Road.
So
Same
we're gonna
thing.
see those coming here.
And next year, he promised
Okay.
that he'd do Chase Road, because they're in the same boat as the
Mhm.
people at Christopher. They need their water line replaced, basically. Their appliances are getting stained. They've got to
Right.
run the water for 5 minutes before they use it. It's just not a,
Yeah, the loop definitely creates the flow of water from being stagnant, I imagine. Councillor Harris, you have a comment or question you might
I'd
add?
like to make a quick statement and then I'd like to ask a follow-up question to the ward councillor. So, I mean, just like in my ward, water mains are important to citizens and we need to make sure our water is safe. I certainly appreciate the citizens who have reached out and raised their concerns. Part of the process of municipal government isn't a two-way street, right? It's not just a one-way of government, it's a two-way where people get involved, they raise and challenge, they go through that process. and then we come to either consensus or conciliation or some agreement where we agree to either disagree or agree to move forward. I believe with these memos, there's been a foundation to move forward. And I would just further request that this body move on to other matters and we defer to the ward councillor for the follow-up items. I think, Councillor Darcy, are you comfortable following up, getting a letter of commitment, timeline? You said timeline. He can distribute that back. We can certainly get one back through the clerk's office, which would end up in our packet, but we would move on from this matter. I believe, you know, the process has worked, and I want to thank you all for raising your concerns and being heard, and also engaging this committee, and thanking the chair for taking this up. The ward councilor's work is a very difficult job. I can tell you, I'm a ward councilor, and oftentimes you're the messenger, right? Sometimes the message is not received well, and we need to relook at what we're doing here. But like I said to you at the beginning, I think there's always a place for compromise. I want to thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, second time around, Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. To you, the council from Ward 3. Just on clarification, if you could, not press them too hard, but I don't know if we could get some addresses on there and or describe the laterals. I believe the laterals come from the main and they're the branch feeders to the property line. I don't believe it goes right to the house, it's just to the
From the
property
gate,
line.
right, from the gate to the,
Gate to the main.
to the water line, sorry.
Yeah, so if you just get some clarification, I just wanna make sure that we're talking about, I believe it was it 29?
Yeah.
Did you make sure we're talking about the correct addresses?
Correct.
Just some clarification on that, if you could do it, I
And
appreciate that.
to that end, if the residents have problems with their line to the gate, that might be a good time for them to replace that. So you're-
That'll be separate, that'll be,
Yeah. So just to reconfirm, he's talking about from the utility line to the gate, not from the house to the gate.
Right.
That's the responsibility of the homeowner.
Yeah, because that's when Marty takes over.
Yeah. Cool.
cool.
Thank you very much, Councilor.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
All right.
Thank you, no further questions.
What is the, anything, since you guys are here, anything you want to add? I figure I'll give you the floor right now before we table the matter.
Yeah, well, I do appreciate you guys taking up the matter for me. This has been a passion of mine since 2007. Like George said, we came in, you know, to have the street repaved, and Wade Putnam was the person that actually came to us and says, "Guy, why are you gonna repave? You know, you're gonna have this thing, you're on the next on the queue to get the water line replaced. It's exceeded its useful life, and it's time." So, like I said, we're in 2019 now, coming up to 2000, this was 2007. It's been a long time coming. I'd just like to have more transparency with the ward councilor as well as the engineer, and if the mayor is involved as well, too, because we've been out of the loop the last year, and it's been disheartening for me and my other two neighbors, watching the other side of the street, you know, going through this construction process and knowing that they're gonna get nice, clean water line put in there, and we're getting nothing. We're getting nothing. We're getting that same water line that I showed pictures of you. So I appreciate you guys taking the time up and bringing light to this, and hopefully it will get done in the spring of 2019. So,
We will give you copies of the memos, make sure you have
I
that
do.
for your record.
Yeah.
You got it already? Okay, great. Anything else anybody else want to add before we table the matter? We're good? Someone make a motion to table?
Table.
All right, motion to table Christopher Rowe. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. You guys have it, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you all.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's going on next? Can someone please take Lexington Street off the table?
Motion to take the matter regarding 554 Lexington Street.
No, it's a resolution regarding issues on Lexington.
That quality area.
Sorry.
All right, on the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. You guys have it.
I guess I'll start,
Yeah, go ahead.
because this is actually my ward, so, the point again was to bring the engineer in, just to hear what's happening on Lexington Street. I think we're all aware of this. This is a section that's unpaved from, you know, just past the high school to just past CVS or Lake Street. you know, that unpaved portion. And so, we've been hearing for almost 2 years now that it's gonna be done, it's gonna be done, it's gonna be complete. And, again, the dates keep passing and nothing is, been done, and now the winter is coming again. So, having said that, Mr. Casaza sent, this, memo here stating, well, I'll ask the clerk if he can read it, I guess.
Typing away.
You got it?
Novel rewriting.
Lexington Street.
Got it. Okay, and I lost them. 2, Joseph Bizarre, Assistant City Clerk, Clerk of the Public Works Committee of the City Council, from Steve Casaza, City Engineer. Carbon copy to Robert Waddick, City Clerk. It's dated November 19th, 2018, and it's regarding the Lexington Street Sewer Project update. Joe, ongoing construction activity is focusing on preparation for resurfacing curb to curb with the base course. This will be done before December 4th, 2018, weather permitting. Final paving will be done in the spring with punch list items. However, the project is substantially complete and will be open to public use.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think this, again, answers a lot of questions for us, from me anyway. My only comment, I think, at this point, if we can make sure that this gets in the minutes, is from a city standpoint, the communication hasn't been great on this. And I, as the ward councillor, answer questions week after week, day after day, hearing from folks on this who are concerned about what's happening. I've put it in my update newsletter to many of my constituents, so that's cut down on a great deal. But those people that don't get the update haven't heard anything, and it's, you know, it's troublesome for them. So I just want to ask that, you know, in the future, that the on significant items like this, that the city be better about communicating to residents on the status of these kind of things. And I don't know the exact answer to that, but it can be social media, it can be flyers in the mail. I'm not sure what the best thing is. I'll leave that to the city, but better communication, so that it's not just left up to the ward councillor to handle, you know, call after call, week after week, week after week. So with that, I thank Mr. Casaza for his update. I do look forward to December 4th. This will be done on or before December 4th, weather permitting. So I look forward to that being done, so that we have at least a fairly good surface for the winter, and then we'll look to final paving in the spring.
That weather permitting portion of it is, it gives us, it can go so
It's
many
key,
directions.
yes, yes,
But
it's key.
I'm glad you read that part, because that's
Yeah.
key. Anybody else would like to comment or say, you have any words on the memo that we received from Mr. Casaza regarding Lexington Street? You like later?
Yep, one other point then,
Sure.
I would just ask the clerk, I don't know, did every council get this?
No, just you guys.
Okay, if we could request, Mr. Chair, that
That'd be great.
all councils get this, because everybody's concerned about it and getting calls. So that update would be great to have all councils, so if I can make that motion or that request.
On the request to have copies of the memo given Mr. Casaza to all the councilors regarding Lexington Street issues, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Would you like to leave this matter on the table?
Yes.
All right, the motion to leave the matter on the table, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Councillor LeBlanc.
I'd like to take the matter of expanding the parking at the train station at Boone Street off the table.
All right. Oh, you guys heard the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
Prior, we had asked for an update from the traffic engineer, and I believe before we went to summer break, we had requested this to go to the traffic department, so they could request a survey.
Yes, they did that. They sent in a funding request to the mayor. That's where this is right now.
Okay, so they did their thing, and they sent a funding request into the mayor. So I would like to request an update. Would that be with the traffic engineer, or would that be with the mayor?
The last time you requested an update from the traffic engineer, he sent a memo saying he sent in a funding request to the mayor. So you could ask him again, but I'm gonna assume he's gonna give you the same answer.
Ask them if there's an update, if we get the same response, then I will forward that request to the mayor for a response.
Okay. Let me, you guys gotta do all that as motions though.
So we're gonna make a motion.
He's gonna make a motion to request that I,
Okay. Go ahead. Make a motion to request from
The traffic engineer,
Here.
a status of the funding request to the mayor.
There we go. Talking about. All right, on the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. The ayes have it. And would it be a second?
I would,
No, there wouldn't be, no, that covers everything, right?
I'd like
Yeah.
to place that matter back on the table.
All right, take the matter back on the table, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. All right,
it's okay.
Motion we adjourn?
all right, motion to adjourn, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. That's how we thank you.